Welcome to CAV Radio 2.0. Here are your hosts, Chris Perkins, Mark Cummings, and Jeff Giles.
Some light on that. I'm going to connect to him, though.
Perfect.
And Jay Weidner, it's good for you to be with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
There's three of us. I'm the host, Chris Perkins, who you were talking to, and I have my two co-hosts, Jeff and Mark.
Hey, guys.
Hello.
Hey. Hello, Jay. This is Mark here. How are you?
Yes.
So did you you must have just caught that little conversation that we were having about this movie Mark was talking about.
Yeah, Color Me Kubrick. Yeah, that's based on a true story. Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, that really happened. There was a lot of people walking around acting like Stanley, though, not just him.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, well, he was a recluse, so, you know.
Right.
Easy to do. Nobody knows really what you look like.
Yeah.
Well, so, I guess let's jump right into it here. You've seen that movie. That's a good movie. I really liked it. I was telling people they should watch it. The Color Me Kubrick. So.
Yeah, there's actually a new movie that's in project development in Hollywood right now called 1969: A Space Odyssey, which is all about how all the problems that Stanley was going through when he was faking the moon landing. So that's a big budget Hollywood film that's going through.
No kidding. Yeah, let's get right into that. The faking of the moon landing and Stanley. What I just watched your documentary the other day. Watched both of them right back to back. I guess first of all, what got you started, or what made you notice that's, you know? Let's just start right at the beginning, if you will, Jay. If you can.
Yeah, I had always been a fan of Stanley Kubrick since I was a young man. In fact, chose filmmaking as a career because of him. And I don't know, it was right after he died in 1999, I just started having this kind of revelation about 2001 being like pretty great esoteric work of art. And I wrote an essay, it got a lot of hits, and got a lot of people talking. And then I kind of started going into a lot of other of Kubrick's movies and over the years, and discovered, the secrets that were in The Shining. And I've uncovered a lot of things. The true meaning of Full Metal Jacket. I think I have the right interpretation, I'm pretty sure, and the same with Eyes Wide Shut. So I just have an affinity for his films, and I love his visual style and his intellectual nature, and I don't know, it's kind of a chess-playing kind of guy. I like chess, and he was a chess player, so I don't know. Mm-hmm. And, together, I'm able to wield a narrative, I think, that makes a lot of sense, not only in his own biographical life, but in the way that the subjects of the films, especially the films that come after 2001: A Space Odyssey, right. I think each one of those films is trying to tell us something very important, something that he wants us to know, and he only made a few films, so...
Right.
It wasn't like he was making, like Spielberg, one film a year or whatever. He was making one film every 4 or 5 years at the best.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And he took a little layoff there for a while after
Full Metal Jacket.
Full Metal Jacket, yes.
Yeah, what he was doing was, and this will be in my new movie, Kubrick's Odyssey 3, which will be out for the end of this year. What he was doing was he was planning his final 1-2 punch of Eyes Wide Shut and AI, which he was going to direct as soon as he was finished with the editing of Eyes Wide Shut. And it was going to be a fairly dramatic of a great filmmaker. In fact, he was planning on releasing AI in 2001. And of course, he didn't live to do that, and we'll never know what his version of AI was going to be. So it was going to be an amazing 1-2 punch, and I think if he had been allowed, or if he just lived long enough to finish Eyes Wide Shut in the way that it should have been finished, which it means it needed to be trimmed by about 35 minutes, I think it would have been a great film. And then I think AI would have also been a great film.
Okay. Oh, for sure. Yeah. I can only imagine if he was involved with AI. Oh,
it would have been a completely different film.
Would have been better.
No doubt about it. Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Are you talking about the one with the child star that was in?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, wow, that movie. I didn't like that movie.
I didn't either. It was really, I thought it's actually one of Spielberg's absolute worst films.
Right.
And I was actually stunned when I saw it. And I have a whole theory, which will be in my next film about Kubrick, about AI, which I think is going to mind blow everybody, because I'm going to reveal not only the source material for AI and what that source material is really saying, but I'm going to connect what's happening in what I think is Kubrick's version of AI, not Spielberg's, and with what's going on in Eyes Wide Shut, and then juxtaposition those two films and show you what I think his 1-2 punch was going to be, which was going to be quite a revelation.
Well, that'd be good. And you said that'll be out by when? November?
November, December. I'm under contract. I have a feature film out right now coming out called Shasta. So I'm under contract with my distribution company to just mostly concentrate on promoting Shasta and hold off on the Kubrick. But everybody wants to talk about the Kubrick. So I just, what can I do? Everybody wants to talk about the guy, and he's endlessly fascinating. So.
Oh, that's for sure. Actually, I had a two-part question. I'm gonna skip back a little bit. Is there any controversy or conspiracy, if you will, about his death and in the movie that he was making?
Oh yeah, there is. Of course.
Yeah. Of course.
I can tell you, I'm much younger than he was when he died. And I just finished making a feature film, and it just about killed me physically. It's absolutely unbelievably difficult to make a film. It's mostly akin to combat because it's just controlled chaos and hard work. And so, it could be argued he just finished shooting and he just keeled over from absolute exhaustion. That could be argued. However, he did show the film to the Warner Brothers executives, and they hated it. And they argued with him and told him he had to cut it. And he died, a couple days later.
Yeah.
And what's weird about his death is that it happened exactly 666 days before January 1st, 2001, the year, first day of the year of his most famous film. So I don't know if it was a ritual murder or what. But a lot of people think it's sort of like Mozart revealing the secrets and the magic flute of Freemasonry and then mysteriously dying at whatever 29 years old he was or whatever. And, a lot of people think it might be a Mozart kind of death.
Sure. Well, I do believe the Illuminati, if you will, the elite, and they do use a lot of symbolism, and
they do.
That's a whole another rabbit hole, but absolutely. So that's interesting. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, a lot of interesting things going on with numerology and world events, I've actually reached a conclusion that that the events are far more staged than we previously thought,
right.
and that a lot of the reality that we're seeing is actually complete show business, actually. And I'm not sure how much is even real anymore. And so I don't even know if Putin and Obama really are in a fight. I mean, I'm not sure anymore. They could be best buddies.
Yeah, we talk about that on the show quite often.
Or like I'll just bring up real quick, like Edward Snowden. We've been getting into that a lot too.
Right, but
every show.
Why is he still alive? I mean, if he really did reveal what he revealed, then believe me, if you think the CIA can't kill you, they can kill you anywhere. And I mean, so I look at this, I'm like, it's just all show and actors, and I think that's actually what Kubrick was trying to tell us in Eyes Wide Shut with the last scene with Sidney Pollack, and he's talking to him about everybody knows who you are, and it's like it's just a big stage, and everything's fake. What if I told you that we faked everything? That's what he says to him, right? At the end. Yeah, it's all we faked it. We tried to make you think a certain way. Right? Yeah, that's right. That's got it. And that's what. And if you think about it, Clockwork Orange is saying kind of the same thing, where you're in a theater and your eyes are glued to the screen and you're fed drugs and you're shown sex and violence, and it's designed to create a kind of a mental landscape, an ecology of the brain.
And that's what's going on now.
Exactly. And Kubrick is trying to warn us.
The conditioning.
Yeah, it's conditioning, and who else but Stanley Kubrick, would make a movie, yes, The Manchurian Candidate came out before Clockwork Orange, but Clockwork Orange actually shows you how they do it.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. And Kubrick is not interested in the effects as much as, hey, you big dummies out there, look at what they're doing, look at how they're doing it. And then and so I mean it's the guy, we owe a debt of gratitude to him. I think he sacrificed himself to try to get a lot of the messages out, and I think he got sucked into probably some of these secret societies and didn't really like what he found after he got inside them, and so he kind of became like the rebel angel, and he built this place in St. Albans and outside of London, which had these big walls, where nobody could get in, and
that's crazy.
He'd drive around in a golf cart, paranoid as hell, and someone was breaking in.
Not to interrupt you, but you just mentioned St. Albans, and the town that me and that Mark live in Maine here is called St. Albans.
There you go. Coincidences abound.
Right.
Right. So, Jay, can we get into the moon landing a little bit? Again, like I said, I just watched the video just recently.
Yep.
Your video, and especially, I mean, I want people to go watch the videos. I'm sure you do too. So I don't want to give up, too much of it. I want people to go watch it, but.
Well, they need to watch it because it's
they
like
do.
a court case.
Oh, yeah.
You have to place the each set of your arguments in the right way, and I can't do it justice in a radio show. But what I can tell you is that a combination of my own interest in the Apollo moon program and juxtaposition with my own interest in filmmaking and special effects kind of let me sit in a catbird position and see how they did the Apollo moon landings.
Right.
And because of my familiarity with effects like front screen projection, I was able to identify the technique, or at least one of the techniques that was used to fake the moon landings on a stage, to make it look like the astronauts are standing on this big, huge plateau when actually there was just a little tiny stage with this big projection behind them. And I don't, and as I say, frequently I do not have the smoking gun. I frequently admit this, that Stanley Kubrick did the moon landings. I have the beginning of 2001: A Space Odyssey, which is masterfully done with front screen projection, showing that, the effects look eerily the same as the Apollo footage.
Yep.
And then the only thing I can say beyond that, and you have to see, Kubrick's Odyssey 1 to actually understand this, but is the closest thing that I have to a smoking gun is, besides the fact that NASA gave Kubrick two $1 million lenses to shoot Barry Lyndon with, is the stuff from The Shining, which I think I reveal in a way that makes people understand what is going on in The Shining for the first time.
Yep.
I have a person that I know who knows Stephen King, and he told me that, when he saw my movie, that he finally understood, why Stanley was screwing with his book so badly.
Yeah, that probably helped Stephen King kind of deal with that a little bit, kind of how the book was different from the movie and everything too. Because it did actually. Yeah, and where me and Mark, like I said, me and Mark are from Maine, so I mean, like I live like not even 40 minutes from where Stephen King lives. I used to mow his neighbor's lawn and stuff like that. So I mean, I've been a big Stephen King fan.
Well, will you tell him if you meet him? Will you tell him to call me? I want to talk to him. I got a long talk with him. I want to.
Absolutely, absolutely. If I can ever hook that up, I will absolutely do that for you. If I could talk to Stephen King for a half hour, it would be very fascinating. I could tell him some very serious things. But I think there's a scene in The Shining where Stanley is actually saying F you to Stephen King. And I'm the first person to point it out, and that's the scene where Halloran is driving up the mountainside, and he sees the accident, and there's a red Volkswagen crushed by the semi, and the Volkswagen in the book was a red Volkswagen. This is Stanley saying, this is my vehicle, not your vehicle. This is what I think of your vehicle. And I mean, Stephen King in 1980 had to be the only person in the entire world outside of Stanley sitting in the theater watching this movie knowing what that scene was saying to him. Think about that. That's good. That's mind-blowing to me, too.
Yeah. He must have been fuming. He must have just been like, turning blood red in the theater.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
I mean, it's like giving you the finger. I mean, And Stanley was that way. What I think is that he'd found this wonderful novel that he was going to turn into the ultimate horror movie, but that was only the outward plan. The inward plan was that he was going to plant the evidence to prove, and hopefully that someone later would see, and then reveal that he was involved in the Apollo moon landings, which he desperately actually wanted credit for.
Right.
And so he faked the making of The Shining to show that he was the person who faked the moon landings. I don't know how anyone can come to any other conclusions once they see the evidence. Every time that he changes from the Stephen King book, he's telling you about the moon landings.
Yeah. Yep. And that's why they need to watch your movie, because I never picked that up. And when I watched it, it's too obvious. It's not like something that someone can be like, oh, no, that was just, no, it's very obvious. Everything.
I know you are right, because I get a lot of emails, and people actually work for NASA and things, and they will get into debates with me on email, and in the end, they can only resort to ridicule. They give up with facts. Soon into the argument, the facts are no longer relevant. The only thing that's relevant is that I believe pink fairies, landed, astronauts on some, I'm just ridicule. And so I know I'm winning my arguments when my opponents resort to ridicule.
Exactly. That's a fact. And speaking of that, I mean, I know that you brought up Richard Hoagland. I'm a big Richard Hoagland fan.
Yep, so am I.
And
one of my oldest friends.
Yes, that's awesome. That's awesome. And but you did kind of debunk the glass structure thing, and I'm glad with your background stuff there that you were talking about. If you want to get into that, go for it, because
well, Richard, who's a dear friend of mine, I've known him for 30 years, and I've worked with him on the moon. In fact, that was one of my things in the 90s. He and I would travel to all the NASA bases and look at the archives of photos, and
oh wow,
and that was where I became really interested in the anomalous nature of the lunar photography. I'll put it to you that way. And I was a photographer, and there was just something strange about the photographs, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And then when Richard came out in '94 with his giant glass towers and the moon and all that, 20 years ago now, and I was like, wow, is this real, really? And I believed it sort of, but I thought there had to be another explanation, because it's just why can't we see these towers?
Right.
And that kind of always worried me. And then in 2001, actually coincidentally, they released the DVD of 2001: A Space Odyssey, a commemorative DVD, and I bought it, and I came home and I turned it on and I was watching it. And within 10 minutes of the ape scenes at the beginning, I had it down. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute here. This is front screen projection. I got on the web, and I started looking at the Apollo imagery, marking it off, and started showing people, my friends and things, and they're like, yeah, whoa. Everybody started looking at it, just going, yeah, you got it there. And I waited. I waited 8 years to release the information, solely because of Richard was my friend, and I didn't want to, I knew I was going to hurt him with the debunking, and I'm not a debunker. I believe there are alien artifacts on the moon.
Right.
Covered with them. But I just think what he saw was, this artifacting from the front screen projection, and he knew Arthur C. Clarke. He was friends with him, and so there's a lot of internecine kind of tributaries, and I didn't want to mess with it, and I felt bad, and so anyway, I finally had to do it. I couldn't take it anymore. I saw Buzz Aldrin on some TV show arrogantly talking about the moon and what a hero he was, and I said, you know what, that's it, I'm doing you in.
You have to, though. You have to.
You do.
People might hate it, but it's something that has to be done,
Yeah, and you can actually see there's another movie called Room 237, which is on Netflix,
I haven't got to see it. I have not got to see that, but
Rodney Asher actually treats me. I was really worried. I agreed to do the film. I didn't know Rodney at the time, and I was like, oh my God, this guy's going to trash my ass. And he actually treated my theory with a great deal of respect. So kudos to him.
Jay, you must run into people constantly that just, even to the point where they must get just angry with you about with your theory.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you just, I can only imagine.
Oh, it's amazing the emails I get, and it almost spitting at me. You can feel it coming off the computer screen. Just screaming. All the letters are capitalized. Every F word is being used. My dad worked on the Apollo program, and I write back. I never said we didn't go to the moon. I said that what we saw was faked. So your dad really did work on a project. So please don't bother me. and that's my position, I mean, and I know, and that's in complete agreement with, by the way, with Richard Hoagland's position. He just disagrees with me on the faked imagery, but he believes that pretty much everything they showed us was fake, and that there was a secret mission. And of course there was a secret mission. They sent the lunar orbiter up there, and the Ranger, and the surveyor, and they saw all this alien crap everywhere. And they're like, holy crap, we got to get there right now.
Right.
I mean, so people misunderstand my position. They think I'm a moon hoaxer. and I'm not.
Like saying it's completely all like a hoax. No, there's just parts of it are. Yeah, they definitely did because they didn't really go back. I mean, that's what I feel.
That's what I heard, that they had to do some fake filming because there was so much UFOs and alien bases in the background and whatnot, and they had to cover it all up.
That's
Jay, I have
probably
one question.
Exactly right.
Right.
Have you heard of a device on the moon called the Soul Catcher?
Yeah, that's Gurdjieff. G.I. Gurdjieff's theory about the moon as a soul catcher, and that it was planted there by an alien race that was designed to harvest our souls, and that's a whole theory. I know every theory on the moon. I've read everything about the moon.
G.I. Gurdjieff. How do you spell that?
Gurdjieff, Gurdieff, I think. Okay. And he there's a movie about him called Meetings with Remarkable Men, which is a great movie. Came out in the 70s. He was a very esoteric guy who probably got into the secrets of Egypt and stuff like that.
Okay. Is the timeline correct as far as like when they say that we went to the moon, or did we go before?
I think we actually went before. My sources have told me that they actually went in the 50s, and that what they did was they took German. I don't know if you're familiar with the work of Joseph Farrell, but
we had him on once.
He's awesome.
We just had Joseph on 2 or 3 weeks ago. Yes.
Oh, he's one of my favorite people. But he kind of proves that the Nazis had advanced technology, and I think it was brought in. I don't even believe there was a Cold War. I believe that was all a fraud, and that it was a design. There was both. One side was to design one kind of technology, and the other side was to do the other kind, and they were kind of in competition to create more chance of success. And and I think that they'd gone to the moon. I was told by a higher up in NASA in the early 90s who refused to talk to Hoagland, so he talked to me, that they'd gone to the moon in the 50s, and they'd gone to Mars by the early 60s. That's what I was told.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And they had the super technology, saucer technology, which I believe was... See, what happened was I think that Hitler was obsessed with, like, Agartha and the underworld. And that's where the tall whites, the alien beings that have lived here for a long time, they live underground. And I think that Hitler met them, and they gave him the technology or helped him with it, and in exchange for favors. And I think that this thing is all still going on, and this technology is really advanced right now. And there's what Richard Dolan would call a breakaway civilization. I really think that's true.
I suspected that Hitler was in communication with these beings in the same way that Aleister Crowley was, how he would summon them up. And
exactly. Only Hitler discovered that they were real. They were physically real beings.
Right.
And that and that they they'd lived here for a long, long time. In fact, they've actually been kind of running the show in a way for a long time. So, and I think he found that, and then they gave him this technology, and it got advanced up into the U.S. and Russia, and now there's this breakaway civilization, I believe, headed by the tall whites, who are, for some reason, trying to get out of leaving the Earth right now, and apparently either going out to the solar system or something. I don't know.
I know you've heard this before, that they're unable to leave the planet because there's some sort of a shield like around the planet that keeps
quarantine.
Yeah. Right. Quarantine. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. That's probably a good thing when you see what's going on this planet. But I've heard that, and it might be true. And but I don't know. I mean, at this point, I'd give anything to talk to someone who could contact me to these beings. I'd love to talk to them.
Right.
Absolutely. That'd be cool.
Well, apparently, all you might have to do is get in and make friends with the sorcerer and cook up some magic spells. Apparently.
Yeah, it could be. It could be true. I don't know. I'm kind of a more practical guy than that. I like to find out they're physical.
Right.
I think they are. I think that, there's been a lot of breaking knowledge lately about, the alien presences on Earth, and I think that's going to get more and more known as the time goes on.
Okay.
Okay. Wow. No, I have a friend that's bugging me to get you to write I shouldn't say friend, my girlfriend. She's a huge thing of March Against Monsanto and GMOs and Monsanto's Agent Orange, and she wants a documentary made. I said, the guy's probably pretty busy, but I will try to help you.
Well, I would absolutely support that documentary. I'll tell you that.
Yes, very much.
We got to get it out. What's going on is really over the top, and if we don't take control of the situation, it's going to take control of us, and it's not going to be pretty.
Right.
Yeah.
Our future is looking kind of gloomy if we don't take care of it. That's for sure.
Yeah. So I don't think we have any choice at this point. Just we have to take care of the situation. It's like sometimes you just got to get up and get dirty, and this is that time. And if we don't, we're really going to pay. They've really got plans for us.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it sounds like you're on the same level as we are as far as how we feel. You're right there. You're spot on with the controlled opposition, and I've always kind of suspected that either Russia and the U.S. are in on it together, kind of like the WWF,
yep.
or they are both. They both want to control humanity and suppress us and enslave us, but they both are just trying to be the men on the top, like of the king of the hill. They want the power for themselves.
Well, I think that, there's that aspect to it, but I think if you step way, way back and you look at the biggest picture you possibly can get, it sure looks like there's one intelligent force controlling everything in power. And it just looks like a puppet dance. Are you guys there?
Yep.
Okay, I don't know what happened. Somebody must have called, but it's just a big puppet dance, and you look at Putin, and you remember a year or so ago, Obama telling Medvedev that just wait till after the election, I'll get all the missiles out of there. So they were already in cahoots. So I don't think anything that we're seeing is actually real. I'd like it to be real, I guess, so that I would know that. But I think that it's just this kind of crushing theater.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and I think it's maybe I don't know when it started. Did it start with the Apollo moon landings? Did it start with the Kennedy assassination? When did it start? And how big is it? How long is this fantasy real still running? And I think the answer is it's still running. They're still throwing fantasies at us. They're still throwing theater at us, and we're still buying it and running around like sheep trying to figure out what's going on.
Well, probably worse now than ever.
I suspect it's gone on a lot longer than this century. Likely thousands of years. Possibly Sumeria, possibly if Atlantis existed, probably started back then or something before that.
It could be. At this point, it's like I'm giving up the ghost here. It's like, okay, the whole thing is a damn fraud. You ever see the movie Dark City?
Yes. Oh, I love that.
It's a great movie. Yeah. Well, the policeman at the end at the subway, and he's like, "It's all fake. It's all fake. You don't get it." And then he jumps off and has the subway run over him. Well, that's sort of how I feel a lot. It's like I feel like running around. I feel like that cop running around.
That was an awesome movie.
Yeah, it was. It was actually the clearest description of what I believe the reality is of all I've ever made by anybody in Hollywood. So I love it.
Wow. So I remember Eyes Wide Shut was the first time I paid attention to Kubrick. Really, I didn't get this.
Really?
I was never into horror movies, and Clockwork Orange wasn't. To me back then it was like a horror movie. I just wanted to be entertained. But now I get it, and now it's a lot more interesting. And Eyes Wide Shut completely, made me pay attention. I was like, okay, this is crazy. And then I had a family member tell me that, he...
I want to come back to that.
He actually directed the moon landing, and that was completely interesting, so yeah. That was a couple years.
Keep that in mind. Yeah. We'll, after this break here, we'll get back. We'll get back to that. We'll be back, everybody.